China is no longer under threat from hostile nomads or foreign powers, but from dust and sand. The yellow dragon, the poetic name for the season of violent dust storms early in the year, which used to rear its head perhaps once a decade, now descends on the capital, Beijing, on an annual basis. In China, the Great Wall is being rebuilt. Today they build with trees, just as the wall built many years ago, the world's largest man-made forest, instead of using stones, cement, sand and rubble to stop the enemy hordes. Should stop the desert, which takes up the majority of eastern China and keeps expanding non-stop, an enemy that China has been fighting for many years and is just as hazardous as the issue of overpopulation. A report from the UN reveals that drylands, including vast areas of desert, cover 41.3% of Earth's total land area. What if large amounts of this land could be converted into fertile ground capable of producing crops? This is a particularly important question in China, which has a total land area of 3.5 million square miles, but only 12% of which is arable. So, what is this GGW program of China? As of now, how much has it achieved? What do critics say about the project? You will get to know this and many more as we dive into their details. However, before getting started with the video officially, here's a quick reminder that you can subscribe for free, and liking will help your personal algorithm. The sky darkens, the air turns yellow and red, dust clogs machinery and chokes people, and outdoor life is brought to a virtual standstill. In the winter half of the year, a cold high forms over Siberia and Mongolia, bringing air masses down from Central Asia towards the Pacific. The winds whip up loose masses from the deserts and steppes, which have been deposited as loess over millions of years. However, the masses of sand and dust transported by the wind are increasingly a source of pollution for large areas of northern China and beyond. Human activities, that is inappropriate land use, have magnified the natural consequences of wind erosion. The result is desertification, now a problem not only in the Central Asian region of China, but increasingly also in northern China's coastal regions. Extent of desertification. The area affected by desertification in arid regions, including existing deserts, amounts to some 2.6 million square kilometers, which is 28% of Chinese territory, or 80% of China's dryland areas. This is 7 times the area of a country like Germany. Wind erosion is the principal manifestation, responsible for the loss of 1.6 million kilometers, followed by degradation resulting from water erosion, 0.2 million SQKM, and salinization, 0.2 million SQKM. 97% of desertified areas are in the north and northwest, in just 10 provinces and autonomous regions. Since the 1950s, the area of desertified land has grown from 1,600 kilometers to far in excess of 10,000 kilometers. By comparing results from the last 2 national desertification studies in 2005 for the first time, the government had scientific evidence to back an announcement of positive progress on desertification control. This indicated a reversal of the trend, albeit a modest one. The vast extent of desertification can be illustrated with the following facts. Altogether, 400 million people, or 30% of the total population, are directly or indirectly affected. 7.73 million hectares of arable land are under threat, degraded or lost. Several 100 million hectares of pasture and steppe land are degraded. This is joined by far-reaching destruction of relatively small-scale ecosystems, such as those found in forests. Tens of thousands of water management facilities are threatened by wind erosion and sanding up. The drying out of inland lakes in the desert leads to the forced abandonment of traditional oases. Desertification as a result of water erosion is causing major damage, particularly in the transition zone between the Loess Plateau and the Ordos Plateau, and is a very significant source of sediment load in the Yellow River. The consequences of desertification include the rapid decline in productive arable land and reduction of the ecosystem services provided by vegetation, constraints on the quality of life in urban industrial growth zones and higher costs of maintaining physical infrastructure, and above all, an increase in rural poverty and environmentally induced migration. The damage has taken on international proportions. Fine sediments from dust and sandstorms are already reaching the American West Coast. These sandstorms are having health impacts in the east and in the southern part of China, as well as in Japan and Korea. One factor about which knowledge remains inadequate is the influence of desertification on global climate change. The annual costs of desertification are estimated at between 54 billion renminbi, RMB, equivalent to 5.4 billion euros, and 83 billion RMB, 8.3 billion euros. Forces driving desertification. Key direct factors are land consumption, inappropriate land and water use, particularly in the steppes and desert steppes, and present-day climate change. Indirectly, population growth, economic policy, legal conditions, socio-political framework conditions, and science and technology all contribute to desertification. Land degradation is accelerated by cropping activities on marginal sites without taking any soil protection measures. Large-scale irrigation for crops with low economic value but high water requirements, coupled with water mismanagement, causes salinization, which is affecting a total area of 20 million hectares. In the wake of rapid population growth, from 550 million people in the 1950s to over 1.3 billion in the year 2005, the demand for food, fuel wood, construction timber, and livestock feedstuffs has surged. Unfettered economic development, a growth at all costs industrial model since the 1980s, is hastening the advance of desertification still further. For example, in response to market demand in the 1990s, the number of livestock in China more than doubled in just a decade, but without adapting stock raising methods in dry areas, for example, introducing rotation and indoor livestock management. Overgrazing was the result. Often, too many different interests, state farms, small farmers, forestry, road building and nature conservation, unclear divisions of responsibility, and conflicts of interest between upstream and downstream riparians block attempts to institute rational water and soil management. Is there any solution? China is working to tackle the severe problem of deforestation by turning the desert green. The nation implemented a project in 1978 known as the Great Green Wall of China. It was implemented to hold back the Gobi Desert's expansion and supply timber to the local population. A quarter of all landmass in China is covered by deserts, expanding rapidly. Desertification can have severe impacts on the environment, such as aeolian desertification, caused by wind erosion after vegetation is damaged, soil and water loss, caused by water erosion primarily distributed in the lowest plateau, salinization caused by inefficient water management, and rock desertification, mostly occurring in the karst region of southwestern China. How did it start? China has seen 3,600 square kilometers, 1,400 sqmi, of grassland overtaken every year by the Gobi Desert. Each year, dust storms blow off as much as 2,000 square kilometers, 800 sqmi, of topsoil, and the storms are increasing in severity each year. These storms also have serious agricultural effects on other nearby countries, such as Japan, North Korea, and South Korea. The Green Wall project was begun in 1978, with the proposed end result of raising northern China's forest cover from 5 to 15%.